Captain on the bridge.
Alright, captains, we are back on the bridge, and today, yes, we get to go over Star Trek Picard Season 3, Episode 2, Disengage. So, on screen. Yes, captains, before we get into this review, do us a favor, like the video, also subscribe here to the YouTube bridge, as we are always on the lookout for fellow captains where we can share our love, our passion for Star Trek Online, but also, of course, Star Trek. Now, with that said, here we go. Captains, yes, Episode 2, I still am coming off the high feels. I would have to say that just like the first episode, I was on the edge of my seat, and when the episode ended, I wanted more. I didn't want it to stop. It was that good for me. So what we're going to do is go over some slides here, drop my ECs on them, kind of go over the story plots here and there, and then at the end of it, give our conclusion. So first up here, we had a little bit of a reversal in the time. They went back 2 weeks to kind of show off what had happened there to Jack. So, but first shot here is actually of the Ilios. We get a better shot of the ship here. Again, it's kind of reminds me of an NX from that shot there. And we get another shot over here of it from the aft. But Mr. Jack is actually on a mission to take some medical supplies to a planet that is actually under a pandemic. And with that, he's actually intercepted by the Rangers. And he is told that he has to go give them either the clearance, the proper clearance, and or go through inspection by this fellow right here. And it was the inspection that he had. So this was giving Jack a little bit time to shine there and showing a little bit of his acting chops. So far, pretty diverse character in terms of his range of what he can do. And I'll say this right now, because there was a pretty big reveal in this episode, and we'll get to that. After episode 1, of course, waiting up until episode 2, I was thinking of who actually is his father. And for some reason, what came into my mind was Moriarty. I don't know. It just because. So I'm not sure if there's any fellow captains who thought the same thing, but if you did, let me know in the comments below. But we'll get to that later. So he gets boarded. He shows them around his ship, showing them all the crates and all that stuff that he's carrying. And it's all just medical supplies. But there is a bribe for the Ranger, which he actually tells him, here you go. And it's a box of phasers. So that was the whole thing, just to let him go, was to bribe the Ranger. He had to give up a box of phasers. Now, before he left the ship, he actually said, go contact the marked lady. So that immediately went in my mind was, it's crazy psycho lady. So there we go. And the message was, they found him. And as we know, of course, that brings us to the modern day of where their situation was. And of course, another lovely shot of the Shrike there, facing off the Ilios. Again, you can just see the comparison in size there from the Shrike to the Ilios. But they're on the ship there, and I took this screen grab because I thought it was pretty cool to see, again, the deflector. In this picture, it reminded me of the deflector, the secondary hull of the Enterprise. It feels like they made the Shrike and stuck in the secondary hull of the Enterprise D, I should say, a Galaxy class. I thought that was pretty cool, but they're just assessing the situation, what they're doing. And of course, we see them talking about what is happening. They don't know who it is, and he actually mentioned here that they're being hunted by the Klingons as well, and Federation. Of course, the Rangers as well, as the 2-week little sneak peek there happened prior. Then we get back to the Titan here. Got just a beautiful shot of this Titan. It's a beautiful shot, ship there. I really do like it. But I want to take this time and talk about Liam Shaw, Captain Liam Shaw. I still don't like him, but I'm warming up to him. I am warming up to him just because of how he is filling up the screen with his character, with his isms, and I really, I can't wait to see. I think for me, this was a surprise for me in this episode for him to kind of grow on me. So I'm all for it, and of course they're just again trying to assess what is going on, and they're getting him and Seven are talking about it, but Seven actually on the bridge there wanted to go after Picard there, and she was dismissed off the bridge, and that's the look that she gave him, and you can tell that's just eating Seven up inside, and she just wants to tell him, "Shut up." It's just, I love Seven's sass. I absolutely love Seven's sass, and I'm here for it. But there you go, another shot of the Shrike just circling the Helios, and you just again get a nice look here of the ship itself, and again it's giving me Batman vibes, but still and the one note I had was every time that they were showing the Shrike, they kept playing the like sort of digitized V'ger bongs like sound. So I'm not sure if there's any connection to that at all, but they are playing it, and it just brings me back to the hearing V'ger all over again. But they're on the ship there, and in this, so they're coming up with a plan, of course, to get off the ship, which is to get back to the shuttle and then take Beverly, hopefully, to the Titan, as they think she's not too far away. But in this scene, Riker is already letting Picard know, hey, he reminds me of a certain someone. And of course, he's referring to Picard. Riker's presence in this episode was pretty mellow, but it was there. Like he still filled the screen with his Rikerisms, and I just love how he's not being pushed aside. He's really moving the story along as well, even if it is for just poking at Picard. And I just love it. Now, next up, the Shrike actually fires off photon torpedoes there. I believe those are photon torpedoes, and we'll get that to a second there. But this thing was a high yield 2 in Star Trek Online, as it fires 3 torpedoes. Yes. So, captains, if you don't know, we also cover things Star Trek Online, and the reason why we're venturing into this Star Trek realm of covering Star Trek is because now the Star Trek Online ships have actually gone to screen, and now, of course, what it was before was the ships from on screen were going to Star Trek Online. So it's almost like a 2-for-1 now what we're doing here, because eventually these 2 ships that you see here on screen will make it to Star Trek Online. But they fire on the Helios and they blow up the shuttle that they were trying to board. So definitely, now it says, I believe that says Savik. So, but they're just showing that piece of debris coming off the shuttle, and again that imposing shot of her. That's a good shot, actually. I do like it. But again, I'm getting the bat wing vibes. And of course, it goes into the intro, and this episode is called Disengage. Now we get back to Rafi, who's back on the La Serena. She's actually there going over the news of what had happened. Of course, 117 were dead. And of course, it's hitting her hard, so she decides to contact her handler via secret comms there. And they kind of go over back and forth. And someone had mentioned this to me, that it sounded like Worf, because in the last episode, the message was something, a warrior, and immediately locked onto Worf. Now, for me, this lingo is definitely shouting Worf. So, because she is kind of blaming herself that she didn't get there in time. And of course, the handler also messaged that Starfleet Command is terminating investigation until further notice, because they have identified the suspect who had done it. And Rafi's like, who you're believing the media, and apparently it's Laroc Toluco. And it is apparently a Romulan who bought the weapons from a one Sanit. And we're gonna get to this character, because I have a little thing there that I just noticed, and I mean it, of course, with all due respect, but we'll get to that when we get there. So but she is being told to kind of back off, and she's like, no, I gotta find out, because she's actually being told to disengage, of course, and that is the title of this episode. And again, she mentions, she wants to stick up for the 117, so she's going to go on her own. And then the handler says, 118, should you continue, do not join the dead. Now, for some reason, I thought this was a threat from the handler, but it was just them looking out for Rafi. Again, being told there to do not engage. A lot of engaging here. A lot of engaging. So she just cuts communications. Yeah, she's just going to go on her own to find out. So with Rafi here, again, she's going to be in that sort of mode where she's blaming herself. She didn't get there in time. So I found Rafi in this episode a lot more relatable too, especially in the next coming scenes that we will go over that. But go back to the Titan here, and 7 goes to Liam. And again, his Liam-isms is just great. I am absolutely starting to like him because I hate him, if that makes sense. Just again, because of how he's filling up the screen. And of course, they're kind of going back and forth there with the situation. And essentially, the way 7 leaves it is, are you going to let, do you want to be a hero, or do you want to be the one that lets legends die? And that scene, and you can tell, look at her sass. The sass is peering into Liam, and Liam can feel it. So I felt that this is where he's kind of starting to, I don't say necessarily change his view and or his stance, but again, that one hit him pretty hard when she said that, because she was enough to just walk away, and he didn't even call her back to say, how dare you talk to your commanding officer or something like that. Again, I'm pulling a lot of the shots here of the ships because, again, my first love in Star Trek is definitely the ships, and we get a lot of that. And I love how Star Trek Picard is respecting the ships in terms of, like, the characters, like they did in, I always said this in Strange New Worlds when I did the review there, they're letting the ships shine, because that ships unto themselves are characters, in my opinion. So I love all these ship shots, but again, we get a good look at the deflector there, and we can see it's reminding me. I'm going to be interested to see how they kind of put this ship together, if there is ever a sort of how they came up with the concept design of the Shrike. I want to hear what they did with the deflector, because that is screaming the Galaxy deflector to me. But of course, the Helios is losing power and is in adrift in space. So we have Picard, though. They're kind of, Jack and Riker are kind of assessing the situation, and they're asking for Picard's help, but he's actually doing some preventative measures as he is putting up transporter inhibitors there, because as he does that, though, of course, next thing that happens is Jack tries to get transported off. Now, this is where it kind of loses the point of me. So you shot the shuttle off the ship. At that point, you could have already beamed him off. I get it, plot, but that's kind of where I was like, well, I'm trying not to be nitpicky, but that's the first thing I thought of. Now you're going to transport him when you could have done it before, but now Picard's put in the transport inhibitors, and, well, of course he can't beam him out. So, again, just something I noticed, kind of, I'm not saying it's a knock, but it is definitely something that I noticed that I thought, why didn't you do it earlier? And now they get boarded, so Riker actually throws like a plasma grenade or whatever this is to disintegrate the 2 that got on board. And of course, it was saying there, intruder. I took the screenshot of the panel here because, again, you can see the outlay of the Helios there, but there was no more intruders because, well, Riker took care of them. And now they're being tractored by the Shrike. And again, you get a better view here of the Helios here, and I believe that's NAR 59019. And you can see their tractor beam is kind of greenish as opposed to kind of the blue. I'm not sure if that's going to have any significance, but something of note. But I thought that was a pretty cool scene there because we got like 2 good looks of the Helios there. And again, that underside of the saucer is reminding me of the annex of how its sensor dome, I mean, I guess all the ships really have that, but that view right there is just screaming to me NX, even the way almost the ship is configured, because if you go back here in the screenshot of that panel, it is almost configured like the NX, just with no pylons, and the cells are just attached straight up to the sort of structures that are leading off of the saucer. So get a nice shot there, and for the most part they're just in this nebula. Again, you can see there the underside, and that bar, that kind of structure in between the nacelles, just reminds me of, again, the NX, but also kind of like a steam runner-ish sort of look happening there. And they kind of go back and forth, and in this scene here, because they were being dragged, the pod holding Beverly kind of lost power, and Jack kind of goes up and kind of knocks it over to kind of get the power back on. But they kind of said they were kind of giving up here at this point, and Jack said, "It was nice knowing you." There was kind of a look between him and Picard there. Again, Jack is, it's still too early for me, but again, this episode showed quite the range of his ability. I can't say that he was filling up the screen for me like Liam did in this episode, but you can tell obviously he's going to be a vital character in this season, really, essentially. But as they're being tractored, of course, the Titan actually comes to the rescue. I love this shot. It's just, I'm pretty sure, and shout out again to Bill Krause, aka Admiral Buck, who made the ship, and I'm pretty sure he was changing his uniform, because seeing this ship in action was pretty awesome. So you can see they're trying to assess the danger there on the bridge. Again, the bridge here is just so massive. I'm wondering if this is the same sort of bridge of Discovery, because if I remember correctly, in one of the clips that I saw, I didn't watch Discovery, but I saw a clip that there was like a room behind the bridge, and I'm wondering if they just kind of redressed this. I'm not sure here, but I'm just throwing that out there. Captains, if you know what this redress or set is, let me know, and or if this is a new one, I'd like to kind of know that. But you can see there, they're scanning the ship. Of course, they see 4 life signs there, and with all the vitals of the 3 being normal, but of course the 1 being in very critical. So they're trying to beam them out there, and you can see a shot there of the strike kind of coming into view there of the ship. But they try to transport them out. Of course, they can't because of Picard's transport inhibitors, and of course they're like, what's going on? And so he actually just shoots them and gets, of course, they get beamed out there. Beverly actually got beamed directly to the med bay, but they're, of course, greeted by security. Now, going back to Raffi, this is where I said, where we get a little bit more background on her. So we meet her husband. I believe his name is Jay. If not, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments below, Captains. But there was a lot of back and forth here about their son. Gabe is the name of their son. And we get a little bit more of her background on the relationship with her son, apparently, or the non-existent one. And it's kind of sad. You know, you would think that the mother would have the stronger relationship with the son, but no, it seems that either she chose Starfleet / the druggy life that was happening to her at the time they're split. But the reason why Raffi calls her ex is she needs an introduction to Sneed, and apparently it's in his back part of his bar. So that's kind of the pleading that she makes to meet with Sneed, and again gives us a little bit more of Raffi. I feel that, again, she's moving the story in a way because of the influence of Starfleet intelligence behind her. So she has to, and on her own, she's trying to find out now who actually was responsible for the weapons that were stolen. And she kept calling it portal tech there that was stolen from the Daystrom Institute. So again, I felt kind of bad for her. I really did, because at the last part there, she was given a choice, and she picked, not fortunately, but she picked a choice to get to Sneed as opposed to speak with her son, and that's the last time we see of Jay in this episode, at least. Now we have another view here of the Shrike circling now the Titan, and again, this was on the main viewer screen as it was already facing it. So I'm thinking this was just kind of all done at the same time, just going back in shots in terms of just showing it. But again, I appreciate the shot of them. Really, they're really emphasizing, like I said before, they're really emphasizing the ships here, making sure that they're getting their time to shine. And I'm all for it. I absolutely love that. But they are trying to assess the situation here, and it's just not, it's not good. It's not looking good for them at all. So right now, Liam is just really, his isms are awesome, but he wants to find out now who they're up against, because now they're in the middle of it. So what is going to happen here? They get hailed by the crazy psycho lady. I will say this right now. She is crazy. I said already, but she's nuts. She is out of her... My God. She is doing such a good job in her little isms of how she speaks and her metaphors, and the vibe she gives off is essentially Psycho Lady. And she's going to be a fun villain, in my opinion. Bonus marks for how crazy she's really coming off. And just look at her smile. Like, I wouldn't want to be in an alley having that coming towards me. I'm just saying. But you can see them all now. Now, in this little part, she actually took a shot at Liam, and something about his profile, and that he was being either stable or something like that. And because Liam made a comment about he was having a good morning, and it's showing that, and her name is Vatic, Captain Vatic. And she knows who she's up against, and of course she sees Picard, and the way she says the Picard stuff. And hey, I took this scene because they actually were trying to assess the ship, and she's like, well, I'm gonna drop my shields up and you can have a look on your own, scan my ship. And this thing was packing. It had anti-missiles, photons, some sort of anti-whatever, and an unknown weapon there, apparently in a cargo bay. But this thing was packing. And this goes back to what Liam said earlier in the episode that I forgot to mention, that the Titan is an exploratory vessel. So it's an explorer ship. That's it. Exploratory ship. It's not a tactical ship. So I thought that was very interesting and telling, and that he knows that they don't stand a chance if they get into a dogfight with this because of the things that this ship is packing. So now we know that the Titan is not like a, let's say, a Luna class, because I think the Luna class, at least in lower decks, was, you can see how it was fighting against the Pakleds. Having said that, of course she has armaments, of course she has phasers and photons, but this almost goes back to, or I'm going to bring this back to my interview with Bill Krause, because a lot of his ship designs, when we were talking about it there on the bridge when he was here with us, he mentioned that even though I thought it would look a tactical looking ship, he said himself, no, these are all exploratory vessels. These are all, and I'm kind of glad they kept that for the Titan A, to be honest, because it keeps Bill's original vision. And whether that was on purpose or just giving a sense of the Titan is just no match for the Shrike, regardless, if it was a happy accident, I'm here for it. But they figure out this ship is definitely packing some heat here. And she gives them actually an hour to kind of turn over Jack. That's who she's after. Literally, period, point blank, she's after Jack. There's a friend, I don't say friendly, but there's back and forth between, again, Liam was doing so good. I absolutely loved it. But in this scene, she's like, well, and to show you what my intentions were, she literally tractored the Helios and threw it at the Titan. And this is, of course, the scene that we saw in one of the trailers there that we covered. So the shields actually came up in time. It gave us a visual on the shields, which is, it's a forming shield to the ship. Again, whether they can manipulate it to be forming and or have a bubble, I just thought that was interesting to note that is what happened there. Again, there it is, just kind of, again, I'm not sure if this tractor beam is going to play a part in why it's green, if anything else. Because, I mean, they can tractor things. I'm not sure if they can actually tract it to that point, but chucks it right at them there, and they see it coming, and boom. Again, you can see the shield sort of visual there. Reminds me, of course, when we were watching Strange New Worlds, where they had, of course, the shield hugging the ship as opposed to the bubble. So very interesting. And of course, we had LaForge's moment here when she said, "They chucked something at us, sir." Or threw something at us. I'm liking LaForge. She's not getting a lot of screen time, but I'm liking it. But she's a good character addition, and she's actually bringing something to the scenes, in my opinion. Of course, LaForge, that alone brings some weight to it. So, and of course, they're all looking at Jack. Now we can see all the shrapnel there, but look at that aft. That aft, yes! I cannot wait to get this ship in Star Trek Online. Just saying. Just saying. Of course, yeah. Liam asks how did they do that, and LaForge goes into some technobabble and says, well, my dad said, so of course there's a reference to a Geordi, so, and you can see her kind of smiling there. I thought that was pretty neat. But he's asking Seven, who's Jack, who up against, so kind of gives the report on the deck, which is not much, but also gives a report on Jack. It's, I don't know, I hate him still, don't get me wrong, Captain, I hate him. But he's having his moments here that's making me laugh. That's the thing. I'm gonna go towards where I feel positive about things, and I feel positive about definitely what he's bringing to the table in terms of when it's time to deliver his line. So the actor, kudos to the actor, 100%. Seven, I love her sass. I love her sass. But of course, now we didn't actually see that one scene that we covered in another video showing off the Titans there on the wall there, but it is there. It was probably just a shot from another camera, but they're trying to get Jack to say what's going on, and he actually says he doesn't even know who she is, other than she's a crazy psycho lady. But Liam walks in and actually shows a bunch of aliases that he went by, I think like 3 or 4 that he went over, and he actually gets arrested and thrown into the brig. And when Seven tries to interject there, she actually gets relieved of her duty. And again, the look, I just felt like she was going to do something, like she was going to deck him. But Liam stood, again, even though Seven's a legacy character, Liam's a new character, Liam is standing on his own, in my opinion. Because right now, it's literally like 3 against 1. It's Seven, Riker, and Picard literally against the captain of the Titan here. So, and I like it. I'm warming up to him, I'm not going to lie. Of course, they go over here, and he wants to turn over Jack, and there's this back and forth between him and Riker, and of course Picard, even to the point where Picard tried to defend Seven, but and he mentioned let Seven threw all of that loyalty away to a whopping 2 people. Again, it's his isms, and the way he delivers it, I love it. I love it in his love/hate. So pretty good scene. But now, of course, Picard asks to actually, because they're given an hour, so Picard asks Liam if he could go see Jack and try to kind of question him more. And in this scene, Riker and Picard, he's like, do you not see this? And of course, he's referring like, he's your boy. So obviously, I was wrong, but I had thought that, because I thought about that episode with Moriarty back in TNG, and where he kind of hugged Beverly, and I thought something of that, but no, I guess something did happen there, but we're going to get more info on that later. But Picard does actually go visit Jack in the brig, and there's a scene here between the two. Like, he asks him, who is your father? But before that, it was again showing the range of his acting chops Jack-wise, because he was going over the criminal record while Jack was responding to it, and he was all, I won't say all over the place, but in terms of his answers, very sharp, very witty. So again, he really establishing himself as a character here in the season. And then of course, who is your father? It's like, I never had one. That was there. So Back to Raffi goes sees actually now Sneed. And this was an interesting conversation scene. I said earlier, talking about Sneed, I noticed something, and I say this again with all due respect. I don't know who the actor is, but when he talked, there were times that I heard Nog. I'm not gonna lie, Captains. I had to do a little sort of double take and kind of replay it. So it may be just because of how the prosthetics are in their mouth or whatever, their makeup, I don't know. But there was times that he just sounded like Nog, and it just made me kind of hit the feels a little bit there. It wasn't intentional, obviously, on their part, but I just heard Nog. But this was an interesting little thing here. So she got in with Sneed there, and he's getting all, of course, suspicious, and Raffi kind of just plays it off saying, hey, I'm working for Toluco, and in the end there, he's actually offers her the drugs, and this is the scene we saw again in the trailer. She takes it because to prove to him that she's not actually with Starfleet, she actually takes the drugs that way. And of course, he says, well, you're not with Toluco. I know, because that's Toluco. So he killed Toluco. Sneed was literally trying to tie up loose ends. And this is where it gets a little crazy, because Sneed tries to get Raffi killed, and she actually gets rescued by none other than Worf. The intro music of Worf, oh my god, that was feels. And of course he does say here while picking up Raffi, because she does actually pass out here, and there was a fight that he killed literally 3 guys and chops Sneed's head off actually to save Raffi, and that's what he meant. Well, you're gonna get yourself killed. You're gonna be like 118. No, it was because she was walking into her death essentially, but he was the handler. He and everyone, those captains that said that and thought that, you were right. But the intro music of this, it was so good, and I loved how they introduced Worf. 100% feels, I'm here for it. Let's go. But that's actually the last time that we see of Worf in this episode. But of course, we're going to see him next, and I cannot wait to kind of just hear more of his talk. Because in the trailers, I thought he was actually fighting Raffi. So I think it's... Oh, they may still fight. Who knows? But it was probably just the scene there we just saw of him attacking the guards there of Sneed. So back, of course, to the final part here of the face-off between the Titan and the Shrike. Picard pleads with Liam to kind of come up with a backup plan to try to maybe possibly get out there. And back at Jack, he actually tells the security guard, or tricks the security guard, telling him what the level of the force field is, and it's 10. He has a device in his wrist or something. And of course, he escapes. And with that said, Riker then actually goes to the med bay and actually brings back Bev, because she had like internal bleeding. She was stable, but she was, of course, sedated. But Riker actually, on his own, woke up Beverly, and we'll see that in a bit here. Of course, they're back on the bridge there, and again, the back and forth, I think he's really standing up to Picard really well, and I'm there for it. But they get held. It's not the hour yet, but again, I took this screenshot. Just look at her. Oh my god, she's crazy. She's crazy psycho lady. But again, her isms and her metaphors, and how again she kind of talks about her ship there and what it means, the Shrike, and it's just like a bird that'll just peck them and pick them apart. And it was cool. So when this ship comes to Star Trek Online, this is going to probably be a force to be reckoned with. They're going to probably make this really strong. And I wonder what type of loadout they're going to give it, because it sounded like it had missiles, photons, and some beams, and like a secret weapon, of course, that we'll probably see. And that's why we won't see these ships in Star Trek Online till after the season, because what they want to do, the dev team wants to look at these ships and see what they do on screen so that they can implement that. Now, even though the Excelsior and the Sagan was brought into the Star Trek Online, they kind of made up what they kind of came with. So I think regardless, because really after the season 2, we didn't do anything. But now they're going to just wait until the season. So those captains who want to see these ships on screen, bet your bottom EC they're going to be in Star Trek Online. They're going to be promo ships. So, of course, captains from Star Trek Online know what I mean. And to those who are thinking about, who want to try Star Trek Online, when these ships get into game, they're going to be available for you, but they're going to be very expensive. But that's probably another discussion on another video. So again, we get a look here of her bridge there, just 3. It looks like it's just 3 kind of surrounding her there, but she's crazy. That's all I can say. My notes here just say literally crazy. But 7 actually finds their Jack at the transporter room. He's trying to get off because for him, he's trying to get off to try to buy more time for Beverly. So he's doing it because he cares. He's doing it because he knows that's the only way to save his mother. And okay, this is this is where the feels started, captains. So Riker brought Beverly to the bridge, and this is right after Liam said, you know, let him go. We're gonna give him over. Riker brings her to the bridge because he had to find out, and he had to know. Picard had to know, and it's confirmed here by one look between the two, just a long look. No words were said. The actual connection, the emotion, I felt it. I really did. And the look in Beverly's eyes when she just kind of walked onto the bridge, you can tell she's still out of it, but this moment for me was my favorite part in this episode. There were some cues here, I'm there, but the reason why this was my favorite part in the episode was because of the connection between Beverly and Picard just with this scene alone. And you can tell it was without saying anything. But as soon as Beverly started to cry, Picard knew. It was confirmed that it actually is his son. So Jack Crusher is Picard's son. Of course, the big reveal here. I'm surprised they revealed it this early, but I guess that means there's more to it. So we're going to find out more. And of course, like I said earlier, I thought it was Moriarty, but of course we know Moriarty is going to still play a part here. How he's going to integrate with Vedek, and then you throw Lore in here. It's a wait and see. But right there, Picard takes action and takes over Admiral's orders, the Titan, and locks everything down. And he says, well, Liam's like, why are you doing this? Well, he's my son. And again, the look that Beverly didn't say anything. She didn't say anything in this episode. In that moment, she didn't say anything. And it was beautiful. And here, Vedek's asking him, so what's your next move? And, well, here again, he says, this is where he says it's his son. And everyone hears it. Everyone hears it. And so he's, of course, I don't know if he knew it or if he knew it and then just didn't want to say it, but it is what it is. And of course, now this is where Liam got some points with me, because Picard patted him on his shoulder, but he said, well, everything that happens from here on is on you. So he's gonna do what he's gonna do. But I commend him for sticking up for not only the protocols or the directive that he's under. Of course, he's trying to preserve his ship and, of course, his people. That was his kind of MO the whole time, is I need to protect my people, as all the captains have done in the past. So again, I love that. And of course, time's up. And what are you going to do? Well, looks at this looks at Beverly and just, wow. The feels I felt between these two was just great. And he says, engage, and that brought me back. That brought me back to the days, because captains, if you don't know, TNG, I'm a TNG baby. This is how I got into Star Trek, and I felt it. And that engage prompted action, which was for them to fire photon torpedoes and escape. So Again, they fire photon torpedoes. No phasers yet, just straight up photon torpedoes. Usually you'd think you'd kind of shoot phasers first to weaken the shields, but no, it was straight up photon torpedoes. And you can see kind of the shield go. It's another wrapping of the ship type technology at this point. So, and you can see now the Titan trying to make its getaway. And of course, they're just, I think that's Beverly smiling, but Picard says they're going to have to chase them and find them in the nebula. And of course, Liam's just like, well, if they can find us. And then they go into the nebula. Just another shot there. I just thought I'd take this. And I will say, again, Crazy Lady was just laughing, enjoying this almost. Like she was hoping that this would happen. And that's exactly what happened. They escaped or trying to escape now the Shrike, but we get a good view there of the aft of the Shrike, which actually just looks like a bat wing to me. And of course, the episode leads off with Crazy Lady laughing. So kudos to this actress. Amanda Plummer, I believe. She is giving me creepy psycho. And I thought her feet are on her chair and she's just wiggling back and forth and laughing, just like what we saw in the trailer there. So overall, I was on the edge of my seat here because I thought we were going to see a little bit more, but no, this is where it kind of ended off. It went to black screen and then just her laughing. So this episode, again, was as strong, if not a wee bit stronger than episode 1. And I'd have to, because of what I felt watching it, and I watched it like 2-3 times, I don't want to give it a perfect score, but it's there. For me, the reveal, obviously, Worf now being shown there, and what really brought me over was the connection with no lines whatsoever, but just a look between Beverly and Picard. That's it. That's all it was. That really gave me just a connection that these two had. And for me, kind of bring me back to my childhood, of course, just remembering. And now, of course, knowing that they share a son and how Picard just took action and just that to me, Liam now getting some brownie points from me, Seven doing her sass thing, Riker, moving it along as well, along with Raffi. And of course, now, like I said earlier, Worf is now in here. So I can't wait to see more of them. So now we've had Worf introduced. I think what's going to happen is it's going to be a Geordi that's next, Deanna, and then Lore. Probably Lore's going to be more probably midway. It could be Deanna, then Geordi, but I think Geordi first and then Deanna. But like I said, in the trailer there, Geordi didn't look impressed when they saw them. But I was happy. I felt the feels when I was watching this. And I cannot wait to see episode 3 next week. So captains, there is my review. I'm going to give this a solid 10 for me. It could change overall when I watch more of the season. It could definitely change. But this, for me, the way things still, how they didn't feel forced, it felt just like a natural progression of the story. We got a little bit more, actually 2, huge reveals here, right? Of course, we had Jack as Picard's son, and of course Worf. The way that they're introduced, I thought it was awesome, not forced. And as long as they keep trekking, I see what I did there. As long as they keep trekking this way, even though it's a longer story arc, and even though it's not the Strange New Worlds sort of episodic approach, the way that they're moving the story is great. Not fast paced, not too slow, but a good pace and not forced. So again, captains, I'm going to give this one a 10 for now. I could change my mind, but we'll see. So highly recommend, captains, that you watch it. And that, because right now as a Star Trek fan, I'm enjoying it. And I will lean into where I find my emotions going to just a happy place that I'm happy to watch Star Trek again, especially to the crew who I was introduced to Star Trek for and grew up with. So 10 out of 10 for me. I cannot wait to see the next episodes. I cannot wait for the next cast reveals to see who's going to be joining them on screen for episode 3, the final season here of Star Trek Picard. So, Captains, do me a favor, like the video, comment below, let us know what your favorite moments of this episode was and what you thought of the character reveals, of course, of Jack and Worf coming back. But with that said, I can't help it but to leave it on this note.
Don't let them promote you. Don't let them transfer you. Don't let them do anything that takes you off the bridge of that ship, because while you're there, you can make a difference.